I said I wanted to do something different for date night, Jake said as he looked around at the crumbling gravestones before him. I didn't expect the date to be in a cemetery. Come on, Allie said as she danced around in the moonlight that permeated through the scraggle bare tree covers. Where's your sense of adventure, of romance? The moon through the barren branches cast ominous shadows that seemed to move in a random rhythms as if breathing some long forgotten chant in the whispers of the wind. Oh, I can be romantic, Jake replied, his eyes darting around as if expecting to see a grave suddenly open and a rotted arm extend toward him. But it's much easier to be romantic on a beach, in the sun, during the summer, not in a graveyard on Halloween night. They're coming for you, Barbara, Allie mimicked as she clawed her hands out toward him with huge open eyes. Jake grabbed her and pulled her into a deep kiss. And I'm here for it, he said. Just then, a twig snapped elsewhere in the darkness, causing Jake's heart to jump. He pulled away, his face white, all senses on alert. Allie laughed. Relax, she started. It's just some animal. Until they heard the voice. Join us. It was a chalky and shrill arpeggio. If it were possible to give a voice to decades of crypt rot and countless years of mourning and longing, it was conveyed in just those two words. Jake barely saw the glint of something metallic rise behind Allie and swing down in a sickle-like manner. Without thinking, he grabbed her and forcefully dove out of its path. The top of a tomb marker in the form of a cross exploded over them, raining debris of old marble chunks. The metallic glint disappeared as suddenly as it had appeared. Allie screamed. Run! Jake shouted. Gaining their feet, they started to do exactly that. However, as mysteriously as the glint had appeared, a strong burst of wind manifested, picking them both up and slamming them into the side of a mausoleum wall. Allie hit the ground hard and lay motionless. Jake had caught the brunt of the impact on his back and grunted as he tried to remain upright. Allie, he said as the wind subsided a little. Allie, he repeated, shaking her shoulder. She stirred and mumbled, Come on, let's get out of here. Allie tried to pull herself into a sitting position, but before she had a chance, Jake was already on his feet and pulling her up. The wind was picking up again, and no sooner had they both regained their feet, the metallic glint appeared, this time leaving a gaping wound in the mausoleum wall where their heads had just been. Allie once again screamed, causing her feet to get in motion as the two began running. Jake could not remember there being so many trees when they had arrived at the cemetery, as they were now being pelted on all sides by branches as they ran toward the gates and the hopeful safety of Jake's car. Just then, Allie went down again, hitting the ground. She screamed, It's got me, Jake! He stopped running and turned, expecting to see his worst fear, the arm extending from the grave. But fortunately, he saw her foot had only gotten caught by some exposed, twisted roots. He quickly worked to free her foot, but the wind had been chasing them, and the pelting of the branches was relentless, making his work slow and tedious. Jake tried to shield himself as well as he could as he worked to unwind the brambles from her ankle. As the vines loosened, Allie managed to slide her foot out of her sneaker. I'm free, she shouted. Let's get out of here. Just then, the metallic glint was back, this time slicing down and severing the roots and Allie's sneaker. This was all the prompting they needed as they started running toward the gates again. The wind and the branches tried to impede their path, but they persevered, getting ever closer to the exit. Jake could see the white of his Honda Accord just beyond, and the sight of it motivated him. Taking hold of Allie's hand, he forged forward, pulling her along. As they grew closer to the exit, there was a small clearing. No branches pelted them. The wind had died down. It was the reprieve they needed to cover the final distance, bursting through the gates, he breathing heavily. They made it to Jake's Honda. Come on, said Allie, hurry. Jake looked around. It was quiet. The sky was clear. It all seemed calm. I think we're safe, he said. I don't think it can come past the gate. Yeah, well, I'm not willing to take that chance, she retorted. Jake fumbled in his pockets for his keys, but to his horror, he found his pocket was empty. Frantically, he patted his pants, hoping he had misplaced them. No luck. He checked his jacket. Nothing. His face drained when the realization hit him. What? Allie said in disbelief. I think the keys fell out of my pocket when we hit that mausoleum, Jake admitted. He gulped with resolution. We need to go back in there. Are you crazy? Chimed Allie. I'm not going back in there. I'll go then. You wait here. Allie threw her arms up in exasperation. Do we have a choice? It's 5 miles to town. Do you want to take that chance and walk it? Fine, exclaimed Allie. Jake steeled himself as he made his way back to the gate. He turned to look at Allie. Then, with as much courage as he could muster, he entered. Allie huffed. Wait, she said. I'm coming with you. Jake took her hand and led her as they made their way back to the mausoleum. They peered around cautiously, but the wind, though still blowing, was not threatening. The treetops swayed, but made no move to pelt them as they traversed the distance. Jake was more concerned with the mysterious glint that had almost caught them 3 times now. But there was no glint, no voice, no menacing eyes from the darkness as they rounded the corner to the mausoleum. Then Jake pulled up short as his heart leapt into his throat. Allie, unexpecting, slammed against his back. What? She asked again, trying to peer over his shoulder. Jake could not find the words as he merely raised his hand and pointed. There, lying on the ground at the base of the wall of the mausoleum, were 2 bodies bearing their likenesses. A rigid look of fear was frozen on the body of Allie as blood slowly dripped from her eye sockets. Across the chest of the Jake body was a large gash, causing his inwards to splay outward, a pool of blood and entrails forming on the ground. Allie and Jake stood in paralytic shock as they stared down at their bodies. Another cold wave tantalized their spines as the voice returned. Welcome. You're one of us now. As Jake and Allie slowly turned, they saw the denizens of the cemetery, dressed in their tattered burial clothes, rotted and fetid, staring at them with blank expressions. And on the wind, the voice whispered, So glad you could join us.